Hey there, it's Melissa Brunetti, and welcome to the Mind Your Own Karma podcast.
Hey there, Karma crew. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Mind Your Own Karma, the Adoption Chronicles. Today, I have a special guest. Let me tell you a little bit about Carlos. It was in the 1990s when Carlos was brought to the UK at 8 months old. As a transracial adoptee, he's experienced a loving home and a happy childhood, despite some big identity challenges. His relationship with adoption has been one of acceptance and growth from a child to an adult. He's on a journey now to share his own story about being proud of who you are and making the best out of what life has dealt you. He's hoping you will take something from his story, even if it's only a small part, and follow his latest project. Here is my interview with Carlos Munez. We are welcoming Carlos to the show today. Hi, Carlos.
Hi there.
I just want to start with, what do you know about why you were put up for adoption? What story were you told?
I was told that I came over as a baby, so quite young, and that my birth mother couldn't keep me.
And where were you born?
I was born in Lima, in Peru.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, Lima or Peru was in the middle of a war, civil war. So I was told that a lot of factors because of that played a part in that decision. And it, like many of us are told, it was a hard decision. Obviously, it wasn't the decision she would have wanted to make, but she made a decision based on those factors as the best thing for me, which was kind of a nice story to be told in one way, but sad at the same time.
Sure.
But I could appreciate that, and I understood that, and I was told little bits as I was growing up that were kind of not too overpowering as a 5-year-old, but it was little bits of drip fed as I get older, that it kind of just felt like a normal story, quite consistent as I was growing up. It wasn't sort of changed, or there was no kind of distrust that maybe there was something I missed there as such. It was consistent, and I believe that.
And so where did you go when you were adopted? You went from Peru to...
Yeah, so from when I was born in Lima, I was looked after in foster care for 4 months by a foster woman, a foster mother. I don't know much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was 4 months old, that's when my mum collected me, or was handed me. And then from that point, I stayed in Lima for 4 months. And while the legal stuff happened, my mum stayed there in an apartment with other mums that were adopting, or other families as well from Europe, all across the world. So there was a cohort of them, and 4 months she stayed in Lima before she was able to come home with me. And then
so she had to stay there until the adoption was final. Was that what was the
there was some the courts had to, I guess, permit me to leave, and so I had a stamp in my passport that sort of said I was permitted to leave, but also then when I was in the UK, I then had to claim rights to be in the UK. So she had to battle in Peru and then battle to keep me in England. But yeah, it was quite complex.
So you went to England when you were adopted after the 4 months?
Yeah, the north of England. Yeah.
So what was it like in your adoptive family growing up? Good experience, bad experience? What was it like?
I always look back and see all the good things. I'm a bit half, cup half full kind of thing. I mean, it was like any childhood. I rode my bike, I had fun, I had friends, had a quite carefree childhood. My mum and dad did split up when I was 5, which wouldn't necessarily expect after all the I guess the challenges they faced in having children in the first place. But I can totally appreciate where my dad was in his life and where my mum was, and it was the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm quite grateful that I was predominantly raised by my mum. She gave me every opportunity, every kind of bit of love that I needed. There was nothing, she tried to play two two-parent sort of role in my life. I was an only child, which is always easier. You know, and to split your time and all that. So yeah, I was pretty much the center of her life. And she gave everything she could, and she listened. We had lots of in-depth discussions as I got a bit older about Peru, about my adoption. So it was nothing hidden, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember being told that you were adopted, or did you always know?
I have a memory of, I must have been about 7, and I know I was told when I was younger, because I remember being told about like Paddington Bear had come from Peru, and that was kind of like a figure or a character that I could somewhat relate to as a kid. But I remember being as young as 7, going to primary school and telling all my friends in primary school that I had brothers and sisters. And they were like, no, you don't. Because obviously they knew I was an only child, and they'd been to my house and played. I was like, no, I do. But I have brothers and sisters in Peru. And it just totally floored everybody in like my social circle. But I knew that I had siblings. I knew I had a birth family in Peru. And I obviously felt compelled at 7 to tell people that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So growing up then, no siblings, and your adoptive parents never were able to have children?
No, they tried. I think they were older parents. I think they were 35, 36 when they adopted me. They tried. My mum had IVF and all sorts, and it just wasn't meant to be. But she has that thing about her where she's just like got that nurturing, caring thing, where she's like always, like she always said, like she was always a mother, she was always caring, but she just didn't have a child. So, and everybody that meets us when we're together sort of gets that we have that connection. So she was almost like waiting for a child to share that love with. And yeah, I was lucky enough to have been that child.
So I don't want to assume that, but did you look like your adoptive parents at all?
No, so that was the interesting thing in, I guess, growing up. There was no other white mums and brown babies. I was a bit of a enigma to people in the town that I grew up in. The fact that I didn't speak Spanish, I came out with a broad northern accent, which in England is kind of, when you speak English and that accent comes out, it doesn't look like my face. So yeah, no, I didn't. People would come up to you and look at you and go, "Are you guys sort of together, or what are you?" kind of thing. You get that feeling of people are questioning. So we'd stand quite close together. We'd try and make it obvious that we were family of some sort. And there were definitely times, probably in the 90s, early 2000s, where it really floored people just seeing us out and about, or even our own family members sometimes, or friends, sort of seeing how close we were, almost closer than biologically related, parents and children. So I was quite a sensible kid. I listened to my mum, and I didn't sort of do too many things that were naughty as a kid. Whereas she'd have her friends come over, all my friends, and they'd be like, why have they done this? And my kids don't listen to me, and I'm there like, I listen to my mum. They couldn't quite understand why we had that connection, and why I listened, and why I just respected her and she respected me, and we gave each other the freedom. We didn't suffocate each other. It wasn't. It sounds idyllic. Obviously, there wasn't. I definitely did things that were telling to any parent, but I think people came around to the idea eventually that it didn't really matter what color your skin was. So yeah.
Did your mom ever remarry while you were still in the house?
No. I've had her full attention all my life, pretty much.
Wow. Lucky.
Yes, definitely. I've got 2 kids, so I'm starting to realize now what it's like having to share your time. So I know how lucky I was to have had that attention.
So how was that, having your kids, being adopted, and seeing your own flesh and blood like that?
That's where it all snowballed, really. So I'd obviously grown up, had Relatively, I'd say a nice childhood. I've not really questioned much about my adoption. Um, Felt not defensive about it, but when people questioned me about my colour and my mum, I felt like I defended it and showed a positive side to it, and people just got on board with that. Then I met my wife. My wife is white. Who obviously wanted kids. We kind of both knew we wanted kids. And that was sort of down the road, and in the sort of preparation to that, we ended up having to have IVF ourselves, an IUI. So that desire to be a parent was sort of a long journey. Isn't just surprises. So there was time to contemplate being a parent, and then obviously that journey kind of just was the seed that started my thoughts about my own birth family, and then my daughter arriving just really kind of just blew it out of the water.
Do you think being adopted affected how you parented your own children at all? Like, were you
I like
overprotective, or
the whole open and honest policy kind of thing is definitely followed through. Because my daughter she's 4, so she's very doesn't miss a thing. So we're obviously introducing to her that obviously her nanny is white and I am brown. So we're being open and honest about it as much as I was granted and given that open honesty stuff. So she understands the concept. It's like, it's really not a big deal. She's been into school and she said, my daddy's brown and my daddy's adopted. And she knows what it means. She's just quite proud to sort of express that. So we have every hope and faith that just if we carry on being that way, she'll grow up like I did with kind of no real questions. Until she's older, and that's when you want to have those conversations. You don't want them to be a child and just almost not to be too afraid to ask questions.
Right, definitely. So how have you seen being adopted? How has that shaped you?
Been a journey, been a real journey. I think I'm only really coming into my own with it in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, where I've become, I guess, truly proud about it. And I don't know whether that's again because of having my own children, that's kind of just spurred me on, and the whole kind of finding your roots bit became more something more that I was passionate about. I've always been proud about being Peruvian, and I think I've always been proud about what the country meant, maybe, but how I physically looked, or how people viewed me physically, that kind of came a bit later. So I think it's been gradual and it's been a journey, but I'm glad it's kind of come at everything feels like it's happened at the right time. It doesn't feel like I've had like a moment where it's been so overwhelming that I've had almost like a breakdown or a panic about it. It's just been gradual, and a bite size enough for me to kind of take away, contemplate, and decide what I think about it.
So you just said that you were proud to be Peruvian. Did you feel a connection to that culture? Did your mom nurture that at all? Or did you just kind of have this innate feeling of, that connection?
No, it's always been there. I think that's what maybe it made it a bit more normal. And maybe so I didn't pay that much attention to being proud and Peruvian, I suppose. It was, like books on the shelf. She talked to me about Machu Picchu and Peru, and obviously Paddington Bear, as I mentioned. We had other friends that were Peruvian, so it was quite normal. Wasn't that much. It wasn't like throwing in my face. It kind of just felt like a day-to-day thing that I was Peruvian. But only until I guess going to Peru did it kind of then become more like, oh, there are people that look like me. And then it became a reality of actually what it is to be Peruvian. Rather than just seeing the pictures and knowing a bit about it.
Right.
But that's what I mean by it being gradual. to see the pictures and then actually be in a country of Peru and actually live in Peru was kind of like okay, this is what Peruvians actually do day in, day out kind of thing.
Yeah. So do you think that adoptees can heal from that primal separation from their family? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I I respect every decision that my birth mother made. Um, and I think it would be a real shame if I looked at my birth mother and had anything other than love and respect for her, because she made a very, very hard decision. And I don't think it was one that she ever would have really wanted to have made, but she had no choice. She can't read, she can't write. And I've watching my own child come into this world, I can totally appreciate that desire to want to be attached to your child in those first moments, not separated. So what she would have gone through, I have a huge amount of love and sympathy for. And that's kind of, I guess, counterbalance this idea of the other side of the coin, where you guess that trauma of and all that, what's the word? All the bad stuff around it and all those bad feelings, that kind of counteracts that for me personally. I'd rather listen to the other side than think about all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
I don't find that helpful. And it's not what's helped my relationship with them. Everyone's got to start a relationship off on the right foot, and I was never going to go into that on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
I would never want to go out of my way to find somebody to tell them how bad I felt about them. So it kind of just, yeah, if I felt that badly about it, I don't think I would have gone out of my way at all. But I think,
But it
yeah,
sounds
if you
like you
go in
kind
with the
of
right
had that.
attitude.
Yeah. You had that compassion for your birth mother, it sounds like, from ever since you can remember, even as a little guy. You
Yeah,
always
yeah.
had that compassion. That's amazing. That's a testament to your adoptive mom, probably.
Yeah, I think she was open, she was honest, and she laid it out exactly as it was. I was yet to discover whether that was true or not. I guess coming full circle, discovering it was entirely true, the story I was told, really solidified the story I was told as a child to what I discovered when I was a teenager about actually what it means to be Peruvian and see their culture and see their struggles they've had as a country and the people, the struggles they've had. So actually meeting my actual birth family and discovering what their particular struggles have been, that absolutely I have full empathy and all of that for them. And then learning, obviously, that what my mum had told me right at the beginning was absolutely true. Just brought it full circle that, yeah, I've got no bad feelings at all. I'm very
So
lucky.
you found your birth family when you were a teenager?
No, so my mum always said she'd take me when I was 16 to Peru. That was always something like an expectation that
Oh,
I had. After
cool.
my GCSEs, it was like, we'll go backpacking, we'll go to Peru. And we did it proper backpacking.
Wow.
Um, so I always had that in my head. I knew that I was going to go, which was something to look forward to, something to kind of prepare myself for. It wasn't sprung upon me.
Yeah.
And we just saw my country. That was like my introduction to my country. And it was my choice from there. If I wanted to go and, study there for a year, if I wanted to go and learn Spanish there, if I wanted to, whatever, that was my choice. I didn't in the end want to do anything with it. I was quite happy with just backpacking, and I came back home and wanted to be with my friends. Um,
So
then I
did
met
you
my
feel a
wife.
connection? Did you feel a connection though to the country when you
Yeah,
were there?
absolutely. It was the first time I'd seen Peruvians that obviously they look like me, but they acted like Peruvians, like the whole mannerisms and their just the way Peruvians are, they're blasé and all that kind of stuff. It was totally different shift of culture to England. That just being around that was like, this is what it is to be a Peruvian. Like there was
Yeah.
just so much more in their culture that differed to more than just what I look like.
Did you look
Um,
around wondering like if any of your relatives were? That you were looking at
Yeah,
anyone that you were biologically related to?
yeah, absolutely. I looked at lots of people and thought, I wonder if I look like them, but I don't think I would have known them.
Yeah.
Or at least I didn't think I would have learnt them, known them if I'd seen them. But there was always that kind of thing of maybe I've just walked past them.
Yeah. So you went home, went on with your life, and then what finally made you want to search for your biological family?
Um, so at 21, I took my wife to Peru. I wanted my wife to see my culture and to learn about my adoption, have that appreciation. She absolutely been on board with that. She's been dead supportive and proud and kind of thinks it's really cool. But then she started the whole kind of, you're not curious about your birth family. And I was like, no, 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 because they made a decision. I want to respect that. I don't want to be this person that, comes charging into their life.
Yeah.
They might not even know about me. So there's kind of that respect there of like, they might not even know about me. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm okay. Let's not rock the boat. We had our kids when I was 25, and that's when my daughter arrived. So it was only a few years, maybe 4 years after we'd been to Peru and we'd done the whole student thing. But it was just documentaries. There was things on Netflix. There was things. It was like that reticular activation. I was
Mm.
suddenly watching things and tuning into things that were about reunions,
Yeah.
or even cooking shows about Peruvian culture.
Mm.
And it was starting. I think it was during the 9 month pregnancy. I think that kind of just did it where it was just all the seed was planted about
Yeah.
the IVF and everything, and it just kind of grew bigger and bigger. And it was COVID in 2020 during COVID when everyone has time to think, that I just decided I think I need to know more. What the information I have right now is fine, but I want to know more. I reached out to somebody who on YouTube who was an adoptee from Peru, just to ask a bit more information about what it is to be an adoptee from Peru, because that was what she talked about. It's in England, there's not many of us. It's quite a unique thing or a unique group.
Mm-hmm.
So I was keen to learn about more about what that group was. And so we had a couple of Zoom calls. We dug into a little bit more about what would have happened in my process of adoption, what my papers said. And then she sort of said, do you want to go any further? Or are you happy just to know what these documents mean? And there was kind of no going back. My curiosity kind of opened the door, and I'd opened up Pandora's box sort of thing.
Right.
By that point, open and honest, I'd sat with my mum, I'd explained to her that's what I'd been doing, and I think that was what I wanted to do. We had a conversation, and she said, absolutely, you do what you need to do.
Mm.
So she basically helped me give me the tools to find them. And yeah, I spent a lot of late nights trawling the most weird and wonderful websites of the world and translating to trying to find out
Wow.
where they were, because I had a picture. I had a picture of my
Okay.
birth mum and my mum together with me.
Wow.
So it was like they exist. And
Yeah.
I found their birth certificates. So I
Your
knew
original?
my original and theirs. So I
Wow.
knew they existed in the world, and I found certain things like health insurance or tax codes that led me to they registered 6 years ago or something. So I knew that they existed, but I couldn't get that link between me and them. And it
Mm-hmm.
became quite frustrating. Probably the one time where I was quite like, gosh, I'm going to actually have to just go to Peru. Because there was there was no going back at that point. I had to discover who they were,
Right.
if they were alive. And COVID was really badly hit. Sorry, Peru was really badly hit by COVID.
Mhm.
So it felt like time was a big issue.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have left it too late by that point.
Right.
Um,
So what
so
happened?
yeah, so I'm just thinking. So yeah, social media is a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yes.
I kind of felt like I'd gone the long way round, and if I just headed to social media, maybe it would have been a lot quicker.
Oh, really?
It's nothing. I'm not that kind of person on social media that kind of adds random people. I'm probably a bit of a ghost on social media, like Facebook. But I I found one or two people. If you know Spanish people or Latin people, they have like really long names. I found a couple that had like two of the names out of the four that you might need.
Mm.
And I just figured, what's the worst that could happen? Just add them, ask a question. I woke up the next morning, and the fella that I messaged said he knew who this woman was. How did I know this person? So it was a bit elusive. And then I said, well, I think that this woman might be my birth mother. And I was adopted and live in England. Time difference, I waited all day. They'd gone to bed by that point. So I'm waiting all day thinking, have I just like scared somebody?
Right.
It was obviously they woke up the next morning to that message, and they sent me a picture of me next to him, and it was uncanny the how much we looked alike.
Wow.
And he said, yeah, that's my mum. So I was like, well, okay.
So that was your brother?
That was my brother. Yeah, like
Oh my
it's
gosh.
like hit the jackpot in one first time.
Wow.
And there was a lady on Facebook that I thought, if this doesn't work out, I'll message the lady. It turned out that she was actually my sister.
Oh wow.
So if I'd not got through to him, I'd have tried this other lady, and this lady I would have hopefully have found. So yeah, very, very lucky. I don't know how many times that must happen where you share on Facebook and you go round and round yellow pages or whatever we call it in England, yellow pages, where you go into a directory of thousands and thousands of names. I didn't really have many choices. I had a handful of choices on Facebook that I could have messaged, and neither of them could have been. And I'd done the whole DNA thing, the ancestry thing, and that kind of came up with nothing. And I thought that would have been my best shot, but and my view is it was meant to be.
Yeah. So did he go to your mom and tell her, or what happened?
The culture in Peru is they have the eldest brother or the eldest male is kind of that leader. He was the younger brother, so he immediately sort of passed me on to the eldest brother and said, look, we need to make a call, arrange a call. Here's his number. We'll call you. So time difference again, it was like probably 10 o'clock at night. waited all day, but it was within the like 24 hours of kind of just getting that message to actually meeting him. So we set up like a video call. My friend who'd helped me with the documents and stuff, who spoke fluent Spanish, jumped on the call, translated.
Nice.
And I think she does lots of reunions. So she was very she knew exactly what she was doing. I was in good hands, and yeah, I had a chat with him. I think he wanted to just check me out, check that I wasn't gonna, because this was his family that he looks after.
Did they know about you?
The elder ones did. The two younger ones didn't.
Okay, so you have older and younger siblings then.
So I have 4 that are older than me. So the 2 of those 4 knew about me. The 2 of the younger ones would have been 6 and 4 maybe. So they don't really remember. Even though one of them is in that picture of me and my mum and my birth mum.
Wow.
So they obviously had to share that information. And as soon as my birth mum was asked that question about, there's a kid here who thinks he's your mum. Have you had another baby? Was kind of like totally honest about it. And the other 2 siblings were like, yeah, no, I remember that baby. Or I remember my mum being pregnant. So they obviously had that conversation where everybody knew, but they went in totally with their hearts and their arms wide open. He sort of checked obviously what my intentions were, I suppose, and I said how much I just wanted to express, love for them and a connection with them, and a relationship, and I'm not looking to do anything, malicious or whatever. And so he kind of like had his phone, because they had cameras on their phone. He kind of just turned his camera around, and they were just all on a big line outside their house. So I've gone from a mum, well, an only child and a mum to 18 of them.
Oh my gosh.
So I have like nieces, nephews, all my siblings have partners as well, so they have kids. So yeah, all of them is kind of like everyone was
Wow.
introducing themselves and waving, and it was very overwhelming. But I'd never heard a noise quite like it. As soon as I saw my birth mum, she just,
Mm.
my wife always says that noise haunts her because she just kind of wailed
Yeah.
when she saw my face.
Mm. So she was there during that call?
Yeah, so as soon as he kind of checked me out and he said, I'm going to walk you over to meet your family,
Oh, wow.
it was like he walked over from the road to the door kind of thing, and I opened the door and they were all there. And she just put her head in her hands and sobbed.
Mm.
Um, and as did I.
Yeah.
um, wasn't expecting that on that day that I woke up that morning.
Right.
But it
Wow.
was, yeah, life changing. Um,
So none of them speak English, so you had to have a translator?
yeah, none of them speak English. My birth mother doesn't read or write. She's an indigenous woman of Peru. Um, she to message her or to get to I do video messages for her. I do go it through one of my nephews.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So we maintain that connection that way.
Yeah.
My father, so they're all together. So my father and my brother um, stay together. So they all live together in like I guess a community on the same land. They've all built their own little houses next to each other.
Oh, wow.
They're a very together family.
Yeah.
Very different to what we have in England. Lots of our families are spread
Yeah.
all around.
Yeah.
They
So you must have felt like since they are so close, you must have felt like that missing piece that, was not there.
yeah. If I was missing anything growing up, for nobody's fault, I was an only child. I was quite, I wouldn't say lonely, but I didn't have that kind of
Yeah.
safety net of a sibling, or that kind of busy Christmas rush that you kind of get in the movies.
Yeah.
Um, to go from that, obviously, to being part of that kind of family, I went from like every day it was like messages pinging on my WhatsApp from one of my siblings
Yeah.
wanting to know about my life. And then obviously we went and met them in person, and that was just something else.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Um, so we waited about a year. So obviously it was during COVID, so they were on the red list for ages. So even though
Mhm.
it'd be all too easy to kind of say, right, I've found my birth family, I want to hop on a plane and go and see them. It was like it was a gift in disguise that I couldn't do that because it gave us the time to kind of build
Yeah.
a relationship, have lots of video calls, have lots of messages, share music or photos or whatever. Um, we were having IVF at the time, and
Mm.
a year later, November 2021. So I met them in October 2020, and it was November 2021 that we'd realized it hadn't worked out. And it was
Mm.
just like a perfect timing where we weren't on any kind of schedule. We could just go.
Yeah.
I told my work, I said, I need to go to Peru now. Like, I'm not going to get another shot before Christmas. So I gave them about 2 weeks notice, and they decided just go. So I've got a really supportive work colleagues. Then yeah, we just did all our flights and hotels and books in November 2021. Stayed there for 2 weeks because it was COVID. Obviously, the travel was quite limited, so we literally went straight from Lima to it's called Jauja, where they live in the mountains.
Mhm.
Like an internal flight straight there, and then straight to our hotel. And we didn't do anything. We didn't travel. We just spent 2 weeks solid just with them in their land.
Okay.
They weren't in school because of COVID, so I got to spend time with my nieces and nephews. My daughter, who'd been inside the house for the best part of a year, um, was able to just run free in a field
Yeah.
with all of her nieces and nephews. So she'd experienced kind of that cousin sibling kind of
Mhm.
relationship, and she thrived in that. Um, we just did dead simple things. We played volleyball on the grass. We'd go for lunch. My birth mum would cook loads of big pots of food.
So it sounds like it was pretty comfortable.
It was
Like
like
there
going
was
off
no,
grid and just
yeah.
being with each other. Like there's no distractions. There couldn't be. There was no work.
Yeah.
or there was little bits of work they were doing. They live off the land, they grow crops, they have animals, so they don't do like a 9 to 5 like we do. They
Right.
work.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
dad works 6 days a week as a chef,
Mm.
but my other siblings run taxis, so they just took time off to be with me, which was really, really nice. Um,
So what did you find out about why they put you up for adoption? Did you find anything out additional?
yeah, we had a little sort of translator come, and I got to ask some more questions. Um, it was everything that my mum had said, that she really obviously didn't want to. Um, it was like the worst. She'd almost blanked it from her memory because it was so traumatic for her
Mm.
that she'd almost kind of just disengaged with the idea that she had another child. She sadly lost two of the children after me,
Oh.
that died. One was in a bike accident, and the other one was in a school playground, hit his head on a rock.
Oh, wow.
And so when those incidents happened, she looked back and remembered me and thought that she was being punished for what she did,
Mm.
so letting me go.
Mm.
Um, but that she just had no choice. She had no support. My dad at the time wasn't there. Um, she had 4 kids to look after, and she's punished herself ever since for it.
Mm.
But that she was happy that as long as I was happy, kind of thing. They always kept saying to me like, tranquilo, tranquilo, it's calm, be calm. Like, there's everybody just needs to be calm. Don't need to. Not about digging up old stuff, but if
Yeah.
you're calm, you're happy, then I'm calm and I'm happy. Um,
Right.
so there was kind of that kind of discussion where we talked about things in depth, but we didn't want to go too deep into certain things because it wasn't helpful to kind of ask her so deep questions about what she'd
Mm-hmm.
have gone through at that time, because I didn't need to know, I don't know, what happened when she gave birth to me. I
Yeah.
didn't need to know how many days she stayed in Lima or whatever. I mean, yes, they crossed my mind, but I didn't need to know that level of information. I think I got out of it enough to know that I was told the right story, and I had every sympathy for her, and it didn't
Yeah.
change my view. There was nothing that they said that kind of made me think I disbelieved them, or I didn't respect them, or I didn't want to know them, or I changed my mind. Yeah, I got enough information out of that conversation
Mhm.
to sort of consolidate that I made the right decision.
Yeah. So when you met them and spent all that time with them, it seemed like it was pretty seamless. Like everything felt, I don't want to say normal, but felt right. There was no awkwardness or anything like that. Did you?
Trying to think if there was any awkward. Um, we're vegan, and so they eat animals. They live off their land. That was really awkward when you're presented with a guinea pig fresh on your plate.
Eh.
Um,
Yeah.
but no, I think they they really embraced my family. They really made, you could tell that for what they had to offer as people, they offered everything that they could.
Mm,
I mean, the best way they knew how to. Like in England, maybe we would try and get the most expensive champagne, or we'd try
yeah.
and go and get the best food. There was none of that. It was just really authentic. They kind of gave whatever they could.
Yeah.
Um, and it was, yeah, I mean, as holidays go, it was everything I could have asked for from them. Um, yeah, it sounds really, really unbelievable when I say that, but you'd have to see all the pictures and you'd have to see all the videos, and trust me, we documented everything.
Wow.
And every time I look back on that, it feels like it didn't happen because it was almost too unreal.
Yeah.
Because I get what you're saying. You're kind of sort of waiting for something to not be true or to not be quite so real. Well, don't get me wrong, they're not perfect. They have their own struggles. With work or in their family. And you did get a bit of gist of that with the dynamics of certain people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they cut out quite a large number of their family members on certain sides that were bad influences. They expressed that certain people were maybe not kind and they were hurtful. So I think they'd made a conscious decision at some point in their lives that they just wanted to be together themselves as a family and not have any distraction to that, to give their own kids a good chance. Which is very much what I do as a parent, I know.
Right. Yeah. So out of this meeting with your biological family, a business was born. So tell us about that. How did that come about?
Bizarre, really bizarre. Obviously, I knew when I was going there that they didn't have much. I knew that they weren't like living in Lima in a nice penthouse apartment. And we had me and my wife had discussed like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to do something to help them, or because with COVID, when they didn't work, they didn't get any money.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt for them in that respect. They never asked for money. But I just really felt for them that the difficulties that they face, because I knew in this country, if I'm ill, my work paid for me to have a week off.
Yeah.
It's not that way in Peru at all.
Right.
So we had talked about it, but that was kind of quite a loose discussion. When we got there, I wanted cushions for my own house. I'd looked online on America, trying to get that material, see if someone in England could make them. It was just really expensive. So I said, like, if we did get to go to a market, I'd love to see if they sell cushions. We never got to a market, and it was probably like the third day before we were about to go home. And I'd kind of chalked it down to, well, we don't need souvenirs, the memories are great. So we went to one of my brother's house, and he was cooking. And it was just like a big cloth with something underneath it. And I just asked him what was under it, and he took his cloth off, and it was this ginormous sewing machine. Like, and I don't mean like a little Singer one, I mean like a proper big one. And I said, no one's ever told me that any of you guys use this. What is it, and how, what do you do? And they had like a little side business where they sewed up pants, or made little bits of clothing for people. And that's when it was like, right, hang on. If we get some material from the market, can you make me a cushion? And literally the next day, they presented me with something, and I was like, wow, okay. And I went home, and leaving was the hardest thing. Leaving was the hardest thing. And I was going home on the flight, and me and my wife were obviously talking about, wow, what an unreal thing that was. And we said, well, how do we keep this going? So we said, like, well, we could do something that we could do a business with this. We were talking, and it took 3 months before we'd kind of talked ourselves into actually doing a business. And we presented it to them and said, look, we want to do this because people in England, they don't get to see these kind of products. We can really be creative with this. I work in design. We can get really creative with these products and do things that no one's ever seen before. It's not something you could get even in Peru. And they were like, would people really want to see that? Like, because they just sewed up pants. They were like, comprehended the idea that you could make a basket or something. And so they were really on board with it. They had a lot of trust in me that that it was worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a way at which I can share my story. So I go to markets. That's how we started off, in doing street markets. And people would come over and they'd ask, where is this stuff from? And I get to talk about my own country. I get to talk about my adoption. I get to talk about the love that me and my siblings or my family have. And you just sort of see people's faces go, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
That's what happened to me.
I didn't know that.
You gave me the link and I went on there and I did the same thing. I emailed you. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. But when you see that, you feel like, okay, I've just imparted something onto somebody. Like, people have come away with a nice feeling. And that's when I get to tell them that people either love their products or people love them as people and what they've done for me. And because they've taught me as much as it sounds like I've got a business and I sell their product, that what I get from them, what they teach me, is equally as advantageous as the products themselves. And what they'll teach my daughter.
How did they learn how to make all those things? I mean, if they were just selling, or if they were just sewing pants, how did they learn and what's available? Like, what are you guys selling?
So we do, I do drawings. So I would say whatever size it needs to be at the dimensions. And she's just fantastic. We've thrown all sorts of stuff at her. There's only one thing she's ever said. She's tried and she can't make it. But we've thrown loads of stuff out, and she's just gone off, made her own template, and given it a go.
Wow.
But she learned from her mum, so it's like a family thing that's been learned and passed down. And so she kind of, the reason why the cover was over the sewing machine was kind of because she just thought no one's really interested in what I'm doing. I'm not expressing what craft she has. And then when this project came along, it was like, well, actually, I've got something I can be creative with, something that I can have a go at, and make something beautiful. So she gets as much fun out of doing it, I think, because
So has that changed their life in any way? Are they getting like some extra income and from that?
So they have no kind of system. If you have no work or there's no shifts, that's it. So there's no kind of backfall. So this is something that I'd love it to be something that's a full-time job. I'd love it to be something that gets bigger, where they have a really regular income. That's kind of our aim. But for now, it's something where they've got that rainy day pot of money where, if something bad happens, they've got something to go to. That's kind of where it's gone. So they had last year, they wanted to build their own houses, so they all lived in something they rented, and they've been renting that for probably 7 years. So it was a big thing they've always wanted and aspired. This is their goal in life, to just have their own house. And I say house, it's like a single brick with a sheet on top. It's a very, very simple house, but that's something they can call their own. They've moved on now to be able to actually do that. So they've built that, and everything that they do from here on out will just get added to it. So they may get a window, or they may get some flooring down, or a carpet or something. So it's something it's drip fed. The more customers we get, obviously the more we can give. We've done, in our first year, we did about 3 or 4 orders with them. And then this year we've managed to introduce my other brother into the business, who he's the gaffer. He's the eldest. His skills are in management and negotiating and coordinating these 18 family members. And I said to him, do you know any other craft people in your community that we can help? And he said, my best friend, his mum does gourds, so that's the carvings on the on the vegetables. I said, send me some pictures of what they do. And he sent them, and it was like, yes. And he said, you can design anything on these things, because they do it all by hand. And I said, well, could you do some pride ones for me, or could you do some ones with nursery rhymes on? And they said, just draw it and we'll do it. So we've been drawing all sorts of wonderful things, like positive affirmations.
That'd be cool.
Humpty Dumpty. And just like my sister and sister-in-law, they've just took it on the chin and gone, let's give it a go. They've never really thought about that idea before. They think it's a bit weird, but they've given it a go. And in the end, they've gone, I like that.
Right. So what's the vision of this business? Where do you want it to go?
It'd be lovely to have the brand and the story about adoption kind of hand in hand spread across the world, where people can see from adoption can come something really beautiful, an equal relationship, and people look at our products and go, I remember that guy in that story. And I can dig deep about whatever situation's going on in their house, in their home, in their lives. I can look at that and go, you know what, it's either not that bad, or it could be really wonderful. So let's just, stop and think.
So what's the name of your business?
So we're called Peru Interiors. We do home furnishings, so baskets, cushions, wall art, ornaments, maracas, instruments. We're about to do yoga range, so yoga cushions, yoga bags. But my sister-in-law just had her second baby, so she's in the phase over Christmas where she'll be resting and recouping. but she's kind of itching to get back into it. And we're saying, no, just take your time. There's going to be
Right.
plenty of things in the new year that are going to be coming, and you can get stuck in.
Right. And so who can get this stuff right now? Because I know you said you wanted to expand into Etsy
Mhm.
coming up soon. So what's going on now? And then where do you see that going?
So we have our own website, which is peruinteriors.co.uk, which has like a shop to it. Obviously .co.uk, we're kind of English based, or Great Britain. We have got an Etsy shop, and on that Etsy shop, we're just looking now into making it European and obviously then worldwide available.
Mhm.
So yeah, watch your space. That we get many requests from people in Europe interested, and we have to sort of say we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
It's mainly to do with all the legalities around it.
Right.
So we're
Because
trying
I
to
was
sort of
thinking, World Market and all these other stores that might, be interested in that kind of stuff. I think they would.
yeah,
It could get big. It
yeah,
could get huge.
yeah. We have some big department stores in England that it'd be fantastic to get them into. But they're bright, they're colourful, they're maybe not for
Hmm.
everybody. It's very bohemian. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's finding people who appreciate that.
Right.
When we do market stalls, and we do like pop-up shops. At the moment, we've got our stuff in a pop-up shop in a couple of malls over Christmas.
Oh,
So I don't
nice.
actually have to be there. They man it,
Yeah.
which is ideal with two kids. I don't want to take them to the
Hmm.
market at Christmas time. It's
No.
busy.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we want to branch out from doing markets and doing pop-up shops, but actually be in the retail industry, essentially, where my family can then get a regular income from that,
Right.
rather than me doing it ad hoc whenever we do a market or
Hmm.
whatever.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. That's probably the most successful reunion I think I've heard. Reunion story that I've ever heard.
Like,
That's
it
awesome.
wasn't really the plan, I have to be honest. I'm not a business
Yeah.
person. I say it all the time. I've been told not to say that because you obviously have a
Yeah.
business, but
You are
that's not
now.
my background. Yeah, I am now. Yeah, like I said, I do design. I do a 9 to 5 job. I work for somebody else. It's not me.
Yeah.
And a lot of my colleagues probably think they do think I'm a bit mental for engaging in actually having a business, because it's a lot of hard work.
It
But
is.
um, it's from the heart, it's from passion, and it keeps us talking. We talk all the time because we're not talking about business or our
Yeah.
families, and
Hmm.
we've got stuff to talk about. And also, it's a motivation to go back. So we want to go back to Peru next year, and see them and
Yeah.
meet my new nephew, meet the other maker that we're working with. So there's a lot of good stuff to come with
Yeah.
the business, and actually being able to get back out there, because it's not cheap, it's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. So it just kind of sounds like um that this was meant to be. I mean, like the way it just all kind of fell together, and then just how the business grew out of that. It's kind of like it was all in the plan all along, even though you didn't see it. It sounds like it was.
Yeah, just have to kind of go with the calling that's there.
Hmm.
'Cause we are very busy people. I don't remember what we did when it was just me and my wife. Like,
I know,
I
right?
really don't remember. And we're saying to ourselves, how do people will say,
Yeah,
like, how do you even do it? Like, how do you work full time? How do you run your family? How do you do the business?
yeah, yeah,
How do you show up for all that?
right.
But just it was meant to be. And if I carry on doing it, I get such pleasure out of doing it. It's fulfilling. I get
Yeah.
something from it.
What do you think helped you? I mean, I keep just going back and thinking about your adoptive mom. It had to be her because I'm like, you just kind of didn't really have a lot of hangups with as being an adoptee, it kind of just all evolved and like you were just so accepting of the whole thing. Seems like the whole time. Did you have anything that like really hung you up or kind of threw you a curveball? Do you
No,
think?
like when I look at her face, honestly, when I see her, she's such an innocent, humble woman of the mountains. Like, there's really nothing complicated really
Hmm.
to her. She
Yeah.
she comes at me with big open arms and just wants to love me, when someone just wants to love me and doesn't want anything else but just to have my love. Like my wife said that when we were having meals or when I was with my siblings, she'd actually spot my birth mum sort of just staring blankly at me with my siblings. And she said she'd captured lots. There was moments when we were in the field where just those moments of having an outsider's view, I suppose, on what was actually happening, kind of validated it was real. It wasn't like we weren't pretending that we loved each other and we weren't pretending to be a happy family. There was those moments where you spot it that you don't even know you're in it. No, she just a really humble, loving woman. I'm really honoured that she is my birth mum and that she's still alive. She's still here. She's still very much part of the family. She's the matriarch of the family. When it comes to her and my dad, I have a huge amount of respect for her life. Like, me aside, and losing her other two kids, she's had a really really difficult life. You can see where in her face, the Peruvian women don't often smile, but when she's with me, there's pictures of when she's with me and she's really truly smiling. And so it's very evident to see that she's just got love to give. She's got nothing there that she wants to harm me with, and I don't have anything there that I want to go in with.
Right. Yeah.
And there were things, when I look back, I think it all happened at the right time. Like, if I wouldn't think I would have been ready or comfortable finding them any sooner than. And 29 is maybe not. It's not old, but it's not young.
Yeah.
And I think it wouldn't have been as it was if it had happened when I was 17 or even when I was 20 or 21. That wouldn't have been. I think I'd have felt quite uncomfortable and not ready for it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, that's a crazy story. But in closing, I always ask the same question. What would you like struggling adoptees to know?
I think it's parents. I'd love people who are parents of adoptees to know that if you have that open and honest relationship and you give that love and sincerity and respect of that adoptee's country, culture, whatever it may be, born from that could be something really spectacular. And between that relationship between a parent and child could be something really beautiful in the long term, not just in that, raising that child, but in the long term. And for adoptees, I guess, that are struggling, that maybe haven't had that experience that I've had, just carry love and respect for yourself. And if there are people out there, I guess, that have trauma, I am obviously deeply saddened to hear that people haven't had, as I've heard some stories where it hasn't been as idyllic.
Yeah.
But you as a person, your story, you can tell yourself your own story. Tell yourself that you are good enough. You're loved by whoever it may be. It doesn't have to be your birth family that love you. If I hadn't found my birth family, my friends, there were people in my life, my aunties, my uncles, that loved me, and they were just good enough for me.
Yeah.
You don't need, just focus on the people that love you, and everybody else doesn't matter.
Yeah, that positive mindset is a big deal. And just like you said, I was looking at the glass half full type of attitude is big too. So thank you for sharing your story, because it's so nice to hear a positive reunion story, and even just going farther than that with this business and everything. And I really, really hope that it does expand, because there's some things on there I want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to buy some stuff.
Well, now I know America's interested. I'll be doing my work. I'm doing my grafting to how we can get and branch out to the world.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the message as well. It's not just the product.
Definitely. Oh yeah, it's the whole package. It's just like I said, I had to email you back after I went on your website and read the story. I was just like, what? That's crazy.
Even as adoptees, like when I look at our own products, and it brings a smile to my face because obviously my own story, but it brings a smile about like I'm good enough. It becomes a personal thing. Like I am good enough, and I feel good about this. I feel good about my country. I feel it's that reminder of whatever it is I feel good about. It's that kind of key point that takes me straight back to all those good feelings that I might not be able to describe, but it just all feels nice.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your really special story today.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been nice to share.
Hey, Karma Crew. This is Jen, and I'm the editor and producer of Mind Your Own Karma. I hope you'll sit tight for just a minute while I slip in here and relay a quick message. Melissa's coming up on 2 years of podcasting. On December 20th, 2023, Mind Your Own Karma will be 2 years old. Melissa has put this out into the world as a labor of love, and I know she's gained so much from all your stories as she's endeavored to mirror them out into the big world every week. Now, Melissa has a day job, but do you know how much income she's made from the podcast in those 2 years? $70. That breaks down to less than $1 per episode. And since Spotify's changed their requirements for ads, Mind Your Own Karma doesn't even qualify for ad revenue anymore. So what I want to suggest is that listeners support this important podcast monthly, and you can do that for as little as 99 cents a month. Now, if only one person did that, Melissa would be earning more than she is right now for all of the work that she's doing to educate the world about the importance of adoption and the impact that it has on people's lives. The link to show your support of Melissa and her amplification of voices in the adoption constellation is in her link tree at linktree.com/mindyourownkarma. Thank you for your patience, and now back to the episode.
It is so great to hear a positive reunion story. And how more positive can you be than having Carlos's story? I mean, it was so meant to be, and how he blessed his biological family's life by helping them start a business. And I encourage you to go on the website and look at some of the beautiful items that are for sale. And if you can buy them, if you're lucky enough to be in an area that you can buy them, please support Carlos and his family. And Carlos was kind enough to send me a picture of him with his biological mother, and then another picture of him with his adoptive mother. And just the look on all of their faces, how happy they are to have each other in their lives. It's just something that we don't see in adoptee land very often, and I just love this story. I wish I could clone Carlos's positivity and just the outlook that he has on life and on adoption. He's just so caring, kind, and wise in his thinking about everything that's happened to him. And I see a great future for this business that he and his family have started. In closing, today, November is coming up, which is Adoptee Awareness Month. And I will be doing some short videos this month that you can watch. I will also be doing some specials on my SMGI sessions, and I will tell you more about that next week. As always, take what you need and leave what you don't. And always remember to mind your own karma. I'll see you next time.